Good evening and welcome to Chicago Tonight. I'm Brandis Friedman.
And I'm Paris Schutz. On the show tonight.
When this wet, warm air mass hits land and starts to cool again, whammo, lake effect snow.
Snow returns. A brand new WTTW News Explains animation shows you how the lake effect snow machine works and why we may be lucky.
Congressman Garcia has to come clean.
She is desperate.
Early voting begins tomorrow. Our Spotlight Politics team breaks down the race for mayor.
WTTW News investigates how mental health care factors into Chicago politics.
What you need to know about a veterinary drug linked to a high number of opioid deaths in Cook County.
And a women-inclusive gym that takes a different approach to wellness. But first, some of today's top stories. One person has died and 8 others were taken to the hospital after a fire broke out on the 15th floor of a high-rise at 4850 South Lake Park Avenue in Kenwood. 4th Ward Alderwoman Sophia King says the person who died was found in the apartment where the fire department believes the fire began. The Chicago Fire Department says the blaze traveled vertically up to the 24th floor as firefighters worked to stay ahead of it. Fire Commissioner Annette Nance Holt says more than 300 firefighters and emergency medical service staff responded to the fire.
City officials today cut the ribbon on the controversial Public Safety Training Center in the West Garfield Park neighborhood.
There are many tools that we must rely upon to get to our destination of the safest big city in the country. But one of the most significant is making sure that our first responders, our police and our fire, have every tool that they need. And importantly, it starts with training.
The $170 million facility sits on a 30-acre former rail yard. The city boasts the new center has a 6-story tower for training firefighters, a gun range, and a fake city block. It'll also include, they say, a Boys and Girls Club and 2 minority-owned restaurants. But the facility was built over the objections of hundreds of community members who believed the funds should instead be spent on other community investments like schools and mental health facilities. There's more on our website.
Organized labor is joining the fight to bring the 2024 Democratic National Convention to Chicago. The Chicago Federation of Labor released a video ad imploring Democratic leaders across the country to bring the convention to what they say is, quote, the hometown of American labor. Governor Pritzker, Mayor Lightfoot, and other local officials have lobbied the party to come here for the first time since 1996, although the standard operating procedure in recent decades has been for both parties to go to cities in swing states.
Chicago is once again home to some of the country's top restaurants. The annual James Beard Awards semifinalists were announced today, and 11 area restaurants made the cut, including 5 for Best Chef Great Lakes. The awards ceremony returns to the Lyric Opera of Chicago this year on June 5th. Considered the Oscars of the food industry.
And you've hosted it before.
I'm not the event, but coverage for it. I have hosted that.
Right.
That'd be fun, wouldn't it? Coming up, though, in the program, what's behind a spike in overdose deaths tied to the veterinary drug Xylazine? WTTW News investigates.
But first, we hear the term tossed around all the time. How exactly does lake effect snow work? Patty Wetley explains right after this.
Chicago Tonight is made possible in part by Alexandra and John Nichols, the Jim and Kay Mabey family, the Polk Brothers Foundation, and the support of these donors.
You may know that Lake Michigan serves as a moderating factor to Chicago weather. Cooler near the lake in the summer, warmer near the lake in the winter. But how else does the lake influence Chicago's climate? Our Patty Wetley is here to answer that question. Patty.
You may have noticed that snow is back in Chicago today after something of a hiatus. While it hasn't accumulated much in the city, it has been a bit heavier in northwest Indiana because of lake effect snow. And while it's less common here than in places like Buffalo, which got hit this winter with multiple massive snowmakers, Chicago can get hit with the lake effect too. So how does it work? We take on that question in our latest edition of WTTW News Explains. Between the wind and the
cold and the sun disappearing for what seems like months at a time, winter in Chicago is not for the faint of heart. But it could be worse. We could live in one of these cities, the snowiest in the U.S. Notice a pattern here? They're all on the wrong side of a Great Lake. And by wrong side, we mean the side most likely to get socked with lake effect snow. Oh yeah, the lake effect snow machine is real. It's unpredictable and capable of dumping tons of snow in a short amount of time. And just because we're on the right side of the lake doesn't mean we're safe. When the wind turns on Chicago, watch out. So what causes lake effect snow? Two things: cold air and comparatively warmer water. Here's how it works. During a typical Midwestern winter, cold winds swoop in from the north, which, not to point fingers, usually means Canada. The Great Lakes hold onto their heat longer than the surrounding land, so when this cold air passes over the warmer water, it soaks up moisture like a sponge. Depending which way the wind is blowing, it might cross a lot of water. And the more water it travels over, the more moisture it picks up. When this wet, warm air mass hits land and starts to cool again, whammo, lake effect snow. The weirdest thing about lake effect snow is how it can fall fast and furious in one place while the sun is shining just a mile or two away. Storm? What storm? That's because unlike large weather systems, lake effect events tend to be hyper-local. So what keeps Chicago from being Buffalo? Well, here, wind patterns typically flow west to east, pushing that wet, warm air toward Indiana and Michigan. Sorry, not sorry. But when the winds switch, that's when the city gets a taste of the snowpocalypse. Chicago winter. It could be worse, and sometimes it is. Thanks, lake effect snow.
So fortunately, we dodged it today, but you never know when those winds are going to turn on us.
Patty, I went to college at Syracuse, so from November to April, it was just snowing every day. And then Syracuse, Rochester, and Buffalo would compete for the Snow Cup. Who would get the most snow? I think Buffalo's probably going to win this year. But you have your own experience with lake effect snow.
I think we all do. We all have our horror stories, but I will never forget my first experience. I was driving back to Chicago from Michigan, visiting some family. La la la, clear skies, clear roads the whole way. I turned onto the Dan Ryan and I was like, what is this? It was falling so heavy, so fast. It was the scariest drive on the Ryan up Lakeshore Drive. I mean, I was praying to anyone and everything and just hoping it was awful.
I had a similar experience. I was on the 90 driving through Buffalo to Syracuse, and the lake effect snow was so thick, the windshield wipers could not wipe the snow away fast enough. It's complete. I had to pull over to the side of the road.
And then you get out of it. You don't know it's coming, and then you're out of it.
It was terrifying. Yes. I had to completely stop. All right, Patty, now we know.
Exactly. We know why.
We know why.
We never know when.
We don't. All right. Eat your heart out, Tom Skilling. Thanks, Patty.
Thanks.
And you can see more from our digital series, WTTW News Explains, on our website. And now to Brandis and how mental health is taking up headspace in the race for mayor. Brandis.
Paris, former Mayor Rahm Emanuel's decision to close half of the city's publicly run mental health clinics in 2011 is still rippling across the city and its political landscape. Not one, not two, but 3 elections for Chicago mayor have been shaped by that decision. WTTW News reporter Heather Sharon joins us now with a look at the fight for affordable mental health care and its impact on Chicago politics. Heather, tell us what you found out about the way the city has been providing mental health care during Lori Lightfoot's term.
Well, during the 2019 campaign, she promised to reopen those mental health clinics, but did not do so, quickly changing her mind after taking office. Instead, she has looked to nonprofit organizations to serve the Chicagoans who need affordable mental health care, and she says it has been wildly successful with these more than 40 nonprofit organizations serving more than 28,000 Chicagoans, and in all, the city has served nearly 61,000 by the end of 2023, although we only had 9 months worth of data.
Okay, so she has gotten, though, a little bit of help in making her case for this shift from Dr. Allison Arwady, obviously the commissioner of the Chicago Department of Public Health. Why is she using her high profile to boost the mayor's reelection?
Now, of course, Dr. Arwady came to prominence during the COVID-19 pandemic frequently coming on our show, briefing people every day, it seems like, for a while. And she has said wholeheartedly that the mayor's plan is the correct approach and has said that she hopes she's reelected. She called her our mental health mayor in an interview with me. The issue is she helped craft this proposal, and that she says there's no real difference between getting mental health care from a publicly funded clinic that gets city money or one that gets state, federal, or county funding.
So 8 of the candidates, though, who are running, none of those 8 who have, none of those 8 have endorsed Mayor Lightfoot's plan, I should say. A majority, in fact, have called for the public mental health clinics to be reopened. But Lightfoot's biggest critic, someone who's not running for mayor, Alderwoman Rosana Rodriguez-Sanchez, who says that the mayor has failed. Why is she saying that?
Well, she says there is a huge difference between getting mental health care from a publicly run clinic and getting a nonprofit clinic care. She says the publicly funded clinics pay better and have better protections. And she says it's important to have a higher level for care for those who are in the best need.
So Rodriguez-Sanchez, she's also the author of a so-called Treatment Not Trauma, which has been endorsed by several candidates, including Cook County Commissioner Brandon Johnson. Why is that, or what is that?
Well, it's really become a litmus test among progressive candidates. It would reduce the Chicago Police Department's budget to help reopen these mental health clinics and create a citywide response to those suffering from mental health crises that would not involve a police officer.
Okay, Heather Sharon, thanks so much. And of course, we'll see you again shortly for Spotlight Politics.
Thanks, Brandis.
And you can read Heather's full story on our website, WTTW.com/news. And now back to Paris and a new factor involved in overdose deaths across Cook County and the surrounding area. Paris.
Thanks, Brandis. A veterinary drug almost unheard of 5 years ago has quietly ballooned into a big cause of overdose deaths. Overdoses linked to the drug Xylazine were up nearly 17% in 2021, and preliminary figures for 2022 show it likely increased even more last year. And here with more on that story is the newest member of the WTTW News team, investigative reporter Jared Rutecki, the first of many very important investigative stories for you, Jared. First of all, what is Xylazine, and how is it connected to the opioid crisis here in this region?
Yeah, Xylazine's a veterinary tranquilizer that's appearing more commonly alongside the opioid fentanyl in the local drug supply. Data from the Cook County Medical Examiner shows that 146 people have died in the past year, as you said, a great increase in percent, and it's essentially going to go much higher as toxicology tests continue to come in. There's hundreds pending. It's a drug that is not approved for human use, but has a lot of really nasty side effects. You see raised blood pressure, kind of heart rate changes, you see addiction, and you see ulcers that sometimes can lead to amputation. So a lot of bad things there, and it gets even worse as time goes on. One coroner described it as flesh disintegration to me. So
horrible
really
side effects here, and another drug to worry about here with all these opioids and fentanyl. So what's the response to Xylazine in the local health community?
Well, this really got put on the map by a local researcher here at Cook County Health who found a very strong connection between Xylazine and fentanyl in the overdose numbers, and there are health harm reduction organizations that are really into this. They test drugs for the users so that they know what's actually in their supply, and there are organizations that provide health care, clean syringes, and wound care that are related to these subjects. The city actually helps them in a number of ways by allowing them to target overdose hotspots. So it kind of targets a lot of the effort to combat the conditions connected with this.
Yeah, and Jared, as I understand, this is something going on across the nation and obviously felt acutely here in Chicago. Interesting story, and welcome to the team once again. And Jared Rutecki, thanks very much.
Thanks for having me.
And you can read Jared's full story on our website. It's all at WTTW.com/news. Up next, the Jesus Chuy Garcia campaign ad controversy. Our Spotlight Politics team on that and much more right after this.
Early voting opens tomorrow as the candidates for mayor flood the airwaves and call out each other's ethics issues. That and much more in tonight's edition of Spotlight Politics. Joining us now, the whole Spotlight politics team, Heather Sharon, Amanda Vinicky, and Paris Schutz. Okay, so let's start with the mayor's race, because after just hours on the air, Jesus Chuy Garcia changes his first TV commercial after it got him and a couple of cops in hot water. Take a look.
Enough is enough. It's time to get back to a safer Chicago now by getting more cops on our streets and illegal guns off of them. Expanding community.
All right, so Heather, why was this ad a problem?
Well, Chicago Police Department policy prohibits officers in uniform from engaging in political activity. And you saw the nice shots there of Chuy Garcia walking and talking with two officers looking on as if they were being told the secrets to the universe. That prompted...
There might have been.
That prompted the Chicago Police Department to launch an ethics probe into those two officers for violating that policy. And I should say it was first reported by WGN-TV.
Okay, and he since changed that ad to
Correct.
just show a police unit.
They said, the campaign told me, out of an abundance of caution, they recut the ad so that the officers are no longer front and center. It came at not a great time when Chuy Garcia was trying to get all of that attention onto the mayor for her ethics problems.
Dun, dun, dun. Meanwhile, Chuy is also stepping down from the House Financial Services Committee. Paris, tell us why, because that's a plum spot to be in.
And long story short, he was on the subcommittee charged with coming up with regulations for the crypto industry. The problem, he had gotten $200,000 from a PAC funded by none other than Sam Bankman-Fried. I asked that to him when he was on the show, is there a connection here? He said, absolutely not. I'm going to go very hard on crypto regulations to protect people. But what he's saying now is, well, Republicans have taken control of the House. They control these committees, so there really is no place for him on the financial services, more than this having to do with perception around his connection to Sam Bankman-Fried.
Well, I thought it tended to be people with lower seniority were dropped from the
right, and he didn't have any
ability
seniority on it.
Absolutely. So, Amanda, meanwhile, Mayor Lori Lightfoot dropped another anti-Chuy Garcia ad, this one slamming his ties, again, to Sam Bankman-Fried. Do people understand all of these allegations, or is it just about making the bigger case that, you know, this candidate has some issues?
I think it is just that. And it, by the way, also features none other than former Illinois House Speaker Michael Madigan. So
Never heard of him.
just right. It is one of those things where I'm not quite sure how much people really care about that. If you're a supporter of Chuy Garcia, you are going to back him. And while they are trying as much as possible, and it's not just Lightfoot, any opponent clearly sees Garcia as a major, major challenge. They want him out of the way. They're throwing anything they can at him, and they're hoping that this will stick. In an area where you clearly see residents concerned about crime and about pocketbook issues, I don't know if those really are the things that are going to drive people away from Garcia at this point, but you do what you can.
At the same time, if you're uncertain about who you're voting for, some of these ads may make you look at him a little bit more critically or go, I'm just going to stay away from this guy. I've got eight other candidates to choose from. Heather, the ethics board, meanwhile, ruling against the mayor and her campaign with the whole emails that were sent to CPS teachers soliciting some students. What does this mean for her?
Well, it's an endorsement by the ethics board, all of whose members were appointed by the mayor, to say this deserves investigation, both by the city inspector general and the school's inspector general. Also, Bill Conlon, the chair of the board, made a clear point to warn candidates that if you have any of these emails in your system, scrub them, and if you send them again, it will be considered a coercive act. Essentially using your power to get people to volunteer for your campaign. That was a strong warning from the ethics board.
Paul Vallis airs a new ad on crime as a new poll shows him with a statistical tie with Mayor Lightfoot. Paris, do the polls reflect the ethics issues that have been surfacing?
I honestly am just not going to read into the polls right now because we've learned our lesson at this point. But, you know, Vallis and now Garcia with these ads, they're on message, this singular message about public safety. That message didn't resonate so much in the GOP gubernatorial campaigns, the primary and the general, but this is a different election. Speaking of Vallis, Vallis is who Mayor Lightfoot wants to get to the runoff with. She said as much because, and this is why she is putting up ads to sully Chuy Garcia. So she sullies Garcia enough, she goes to a runoff in her head with Paul Vallis, and then if you're a progressive voter, you don't like Lori Lightfoot, but Paul Vallis is toxic to you. So this is what she's angling for.
Okay, so let's also talk a little bit about City Council, because there are 16 alder people who are leaving City Council. So let's start with the 45th Ward, where Alderman Jim Gardner is in ethics trouble again. Heather, this isn't his first go-round with the ethics board. What's going on, and how does this affect his race?
Well, he is now the subject of at least 2 more complaints by the Inspector General.
Two more, not two total, 2 more.
2 more. With the endorsement of the ethics board, this time for getting out of his car and harassing volunteers for another candidate when they were passing petitions, and he basically yelled at them, and one of the volunteers said that he thought that Jim Gardner was going to punch him. Of course, as we've reported, Jim Gardner is also under investigation by the FBI for pay-to-pay politics, and of course, about a year ago, he had to get up on the floor of City Council and apologize for sending texts that used homophobic and misogynistic terms about Alderman Tom Tunney and other City Hall staffers. So this is the latest in a long line of questionable conduct that I think raises real questions about his fitness to serve on the City Council.
And he has real competition, by the way.
Yes.
This is, by the way, there are a lot of those sitting members of the council who are returning and are unopposed. He's not one of them.
Yeah, there's some weird things happening in the 45th Ward, from cars showing up in people's lawns, you know, and one of the guys running against Gardner was a person that had sued Gardner, basically. So, yeah, a lot of questions about his fitness here, given all the issues that keep compiling up.
Yeah, well, that's one to watch for sure. All right, new Spotlight Politics, everybody, and that is it for tonight. Thank you, Heather Sharon, Amanda Vinicky, and Paris Schatz. Up next, we visit a women-inclusive gym in Waukegan. But first, a look at the weather. You might notice gyms are more packed than usual in January as New Year's resolutions are in full swing. But for some new gym members, this environment can become a daunting experience. Reporter Joanna Hernandez and producer Andrea Flores visit a gym in Waukegan that's taking a different approach to gym culture, aimed at uplifting women and reshaping fitness ideals.
All right, ready? 1 minute. Let's go.
After leaving the corporate world and having her first child, Maribel Wilson took a chance and opened a gym in Waukegan.
That's why it's so important to me, and why I'm so passionate about it is because I pretty much gave up my old life just to have this come true.
Wilson started WWM, a gym that's grown to more than 130 members to serve women of all shapes and sizes.
I hope to instill hope in other women that they can also go out there and feel amazing every single day.
Member Mireya Martinez says this attitude was exactly what she was looking for.
I was starting my, I guess you could call it, weight loss journey, where I was at a place where I was most vulnerable. I didn't have a lot of self-confidence. It wasn't like going to a regular gym where a lot of people are already really, really fit and lifting heavy and wearing crop tops. And I didn't want to be taken in by that. I didn't want to be brainwashed by the image that I needed to be like an Instagram model. No, I need to be myself. And I think that's what Maribel really reinforces in our brains, that you have to be the best you. You don't have to be the best anybody else is.
Psychology professor Jocelyn Carter leads the Healthy Families Lab at DePaul University, studying the fitness industry and its impact on women.
A lot of the media, including social media, in sort of like the fitness, athletic space is largely geared towards white women and has historically been women with a particular body type.
But Carter says there are ways to make exercise and fitness more inclusive by taking a more community-centered approach.
We can get women into gym spaces where it's not just focus on like, you know, what the weights are and what the different equipment is, but there's some sort of sense of community. Maybe people are learning how to do particular things together and making a connection and having it be more of like more of a family and community space.
WWM is taking a community approach to fitness by creating events outside of workouts. When not being utilized as a gym, the space is used to host conversations for the community. Past events include discussions about breast cancer, sex, miscarriage, abortion, and infant loss.
I feel like a lot of us have a lot more in common than we think, but sometimes it's not talked about. It's like kind of like therapy as well.
Here has been a space where a lot of us feel super comfortable with one another. I have women here who talk about all types of things. So I feel like this place has become an outlet for how we have grown up.
For Martinez, the goal is no longer to lose weight. It's about much more.
It's not all about the weight loss anymore. It's about meeting new people. It's about being me. It's about finding myself again.
Whether it's a mental or physical workout, members say they are strengthening the bodies they have at times struggled to love.
I want women to feel empowered after leaving WWM. I want them to feel that they can do anything in this world, anything in this life. They can make any changes.
For Chicago Tonight, I'm Joanna Hernandez.
And the gym is not women exclusive. Men are welcome as well. Some men have even requested a class where they can feel comfortable starting their new fitness journey.
Good to know.
Good to know in case you're looking for a gym. And that's our show for this Wednesday night. And please join us tomorrow night live at 10.
We take you to Chinatown as the neighborhood gets ready for this weekend's Lunar New Year parade.
And Bronzeville becomes a heritage area, what that means for lifelong residents in this week's In Your Neighborhood series. Now, for all of us here at Chicago Tonight, I'm Brandis Friedman.
And I'm Paris Schutz. Thank you so much for watching. Stay healthy and safe, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Closed captioning is made possible by Robert A. Clifford and Clifford Law Offices, a proud sponsor of diversity, equity, and inclusion-focused free continuing legal education for lawyers throughout the region.
Next time.
Save me again.
After Father Brown vows to look after a convicted killer,
I believe he is a changed man.
his friend rejoins a cult.
Astral blessings upon you.
But death soon follows.
What's that on her fingertips?
And guilt is quickly decided.
I'll almost certainly hang this time.
Unless Father Brown can find the truth.
Your neck is on the line for letting him out.
Father Brown.
Thursday at 8 on WTTW.
Next time on Shakespeare and Hathaway.
How did he die?
He was crushed by falling carpets.
The team investigates a suspicious death.
Her room was next to the rolls when they toppled.
The victim worked at a shady flooring company.
Why would they be selling at a loss?
I think there's more to this than meets the eye.
But snooping on the family business.
We need to get in there.
How are you going to do that?
Will put them all in danger. Shakespeare and Hathaway.